Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining our webinar series on CTC tools. Data Wizard will be our topic for today. I'm Ramil Laksaman, one of the account manager for Infrastructure GIS team. Joining me once again is Colin Gaudet, one of our many tech consultants with SolidCAD. Here's our agenda for this session. Data Wizard will help you create project-specific legends and quantity takeoffs for all kinds of AutoCAD and Civil 3D objects. It will allow you to scan one or more drawings, generate an AutoCAD table, and as you insert more data or edit, it will update your legend automatically, streamlining your workflow. We'll witness this through the live demo that Colin will showcase, and conclude with a final Q&A discussion at the end. So please, I encourage you to type in those questions. Just a quick introduction for those of you new to SolidCAD and what we do. We're an authorized Autodesk reseller that's kept a platinum partner status, the highest, for well over 25 years. We specialize in technologies to help support clients in industries such as architecture, engineering, construction, civil infrastructure, and manufacturing. Here are several types of our services we provide to our civil clientele, from conducting online training courses for your new Civil 3D users, to the more advanced courses such as transportation for design professionals, template creation, workflow assessment, and virtual infrastructure university events. SolidCAD's goal is to help you discover the latest technologies, share best practices, and present industry trends for completion of your project that much faster. Now, we do this by having a dedicated combined team of 11 civil specialists located coast to coast, ready to assist you in various time zones, with training facilities and offices spanning across Canada. Now, SolidCAD has incorporated CTC as part of our product line because we wanted to be partnered with the industry leaders in productivity tools. CTC has developed add-ins for Civil 3D and Revit and established membership with Autodesk as part of the developer network, leading the pace in developing BIM, CIM technologies, and software services. This is CTC CIM Project Suite, and it's for your everyday Civil 3D user. It was developed to alleviate tedious tasks that out-of-the-box Civil 3D poses. For faster sheet editing, site grading automation, building and editing pipe networks quickly, to creating more dynamic corridors, these tools will help cut down hours of work to minutes, if not seconds. Now, by downloading the trial, you get access to test out the entire suite, while keeping the free tools shown distinctly through the light green icons. There's corridor cleanup, part swapper, feature line to alignment, and survey sweeper. Now with that, I'll hand it over to my colleague for a demo on Data Wizard. Colin?
Right on. Thanks a lot, Ramil. You can hear me and see my screen all right?
Perfect.
Awesome. Yeah, so this is the stuff that we're going to go through today. What Data Wizard is literally tabulating and creating legends, QTO, and things like that. Before we start that, though, we want to take a look at what kind of the native Civil 3D alternatives are and see what we're improving on with each one of those. As Ramil mentioned, if you have any questions at all, please type them into the chat, and we'll have kind of an open forum kind of thing at the end where we'll be able to fire back and forth questions and answers. There. So for those of you who aren't familiar, what we're talking about with CTC Software's CIM suites, we've got two suites. We've got the Project Suite and we've got the Manager Suite. These are two separate products. They come up as a ribbon in your Civil 3D. And like Ramil said, the CIM Project Suite is your day-to-day productivity tools. You're going to automate tasks for grading, pipe networks, corridors, legends, sheets, labeling, and a bunch more. It's not just for kind of end users. It's not just for kind of experienced users. It's for everyone. Everyone's going to find a lot of efficiencies out of that one. The CIM Manager Suite, that's talking about some of your templates and standards, and you're going to be able to control all of that in a lot more of an efficient process. Any of those kind of Excel like formats in Civil 3D, like your figure prefix databases and things like that, we're going to be able to manipulate all of those in Excel itself. It makes for a lot easier work when we're adjusting layers and some of our survey settings and things like that. But let's start talking about some of the native Civil 3D functionality for tables, legends, and QTO. If you've ever tried to create a legend in Civil 3D, well, there isn't one, really. At this point, Civil 3D, we're kind of forced to create all of this and do it all manually, and it doesn't tabulate any kind of graphics or that. Often, the object-specific or task-specific ones, something like your volume reports and things like that, or your volume tables, those can get very tedious and very, very inflexible. And your Civil 3D tables also have limitations with formatting and things like that. We can absolutely table our pipe networks, but we're not able to adjust some of that formatting in there to get your proper structure schedules. Oftentimes we're left with having to choose between paper space or model space as well for those tables. And although there is a QTO manager within Civil 3D, it takes a lot of setup beforehand to make sure that we've got all of our parts list pre-configured, our code set styles pre-configured, and then at the end of the day, we're still left with picking a lot of our AutoCAD objects we'd like to tabulate manually. So what we're going to talk about today is Data Wizard. So these three tools in our CIM Project Suite. What Data Wizard does is it gives you drawing specific legends that it's going to scan your entire drawing and figure out exactly what's happening in that drawing or in that viewport, more so if we wanted to get very specific. And it's only going to grab objects that are actually shown there. We can do detailed quantity takeoffs, no template configuration required, and it drops it right into Excel, where you can obviously format everything exactly the way we're looking for. And it's going to tabulate both Civil 3D and AutoCAD objects. And the types of objects we're talking about are the point, line, and area type of objects that we're going to get into. And we'll see that as we get into the demo. And then once we've kind of got some settings pre-configured in there, we can then save that out to a template and share it to the rest of our team for various other projects and that to improve the efficiency even more. Some of the features and benefits of this tool, like I've already mentioned, kind of legends and QTOs are specific to your project, specific to a specific sheet or area, and it's really minimizing any of the mistakes that might happen in there. We don't have these giant one-size-fits-all legends in our projects anymore that may open us up to some liability and things like that if objects aren't shown correctly for the project that we're working on. Data Wizard's going to get us exactly what's in our drawing or exactly what's in that sheet even and drop it in there into an AutoCAD table. So there's three buttons that we're going to work with, three little pieces of the tool. The first one is Setup Table. That's where we're going to actually get in there, drill in, and make some very granular adjustments about what objects we're looking for and how we want to show them in the tables that we want to produce. The second one is once we've already done the first step, the Setup Table, we're going to be able to save that out to a template, and then we could load it into another project via this second option. And then if there were any changes within our drawings, we can absolutely use this updates tables to keep all of our tables dynamic as well. So at this point, I'm going to jump over and we're going to look at two different demos. We're going to look at creating legends to start, and then we'll look at how we can use the same tools configured in a slightly different way to start looking at QTO. So I'll flip over into Civil 3D. And what we have in Civil 3D here is we've got a couple different sheets of our project. We've got some hatches. We've got some survey figures and some survey points as well in here. What I want to do is be able to tabulate all of this stuff and have it on this sheet as its own legend. So let's dive in here real quick. We'll open up Data Wizard. There we go. And what Data Wizard is it's a 4-page wizard to go through and pick in the first area here, pick kind of the extents of our search for these objects. The current drawing, do we want Xrefs? Do we want to go in additional drawings that aren't even open? We can limit it to a layout. So in this case, I've limited it to our site plan 1, this sheet. And we've also picked just this viewport. It's only going to grab stuff that's inside this viewport. At any point, we can save this out to a template. But we need to go through and configure a lot more before that template becomes a little bit more useful. The next step here is we get the option to pick everything that we're looking for inside the drawing. So off the hop, we could check them all. We could uncheck them all. In this case, if I check them all, I can hit refresh and see what's actually in the drawing. It's going to do a complete search for my area here. And I can see that the only things that are actually in here, we've got survey points, survey figures, and hatches. So I really don't need anything else other than the 3 of those. So let's take those. Now, if I go to the next tab, I can see every single survey point, survey figure, and hatch that's in the drawing here. As I'm looking at this, I may realize, well, there's a number of deciduous trees, and that's because at this point with the survey points, it's grabbing every object with a different description here. So let's go back and we'll adjust this here. In our search, if I hit in survey points, I can go over and filter this out a little bit. I could say, I get this filtering option right here, and I could say that I only want points that have a raw description of, or a layer that starts with or includes symbol. And I can use the asterisk in there to include any layer that contains that. Now, I had multiples of trees because we had different diameters of trees and stuff like that. We also have options to kind of weed duplicates in here. And I can do that with the raw description. So I have TRD star. Make sure that maybe there's a couple different carnivorous trees in there too. TRC star. And I think there were a couple catch basins in there as well. CB star. So I can consolidate all of those and I'll click OK. Same thing with the survey figures. I can go in here and edit some of that as well. Maybe I only want to include, in this case, layers that include line in them. So we can set some of that stuff up so that when we go to the next page, we're only looking at one instance of each one of these different scenarios here. Now, this is where we're setting up the data extraction. We've grabbed the objects that we want to show in our legend. Now, what information do we want to pull from each of those objects? That's where we go look at data to extract. And you can see that there's a variety of different options here. We can pull a graphic, which you really can't do in Civil 3D, like we talked about just now. In this case, I'm also going to pull the layer description. I have areas, counts, hatches. I have additional data. So additional data might be something like an attribute or property set data that we could add in there as well. volumes, I could put a custom description in there and just manually code in what I'd like to put. I have a lot of different options on what I'd like to include in this table that I'm going to create. Now, I've been calling it a legend up until now, but it really is just a table, an AutoCAD table, only producing the condensed search criteria that I've got right here. So I'm going to show 3 different points, 3 different lines, and in this case, 3 different hatches as well. So this is going to be my legend because I'm showing a graphic and a description of that graphic, just because it's the type of data that I've extracted. Let's go to the next here. And this is the last tab here where I get to pick all of the different formatting for that table. I can sort my data. Now I can sort my object groups if I wanted to, and that will label them alphabetically. I like them the way they are right now. I'd like points, lines, and then hatches. That's the way I like to do things. But within there, how do I sort my survey points? Well, I could sort them by layer description, or I could sort them by object or graphics. It's up to me. I can decide. I like what I've got here, but I've got a lot more sorting control than what you normally would. And then I can see a preview of how they're sorted out here. I have specific scales factors for symbols, line types, and hatches. And then down at the bottom, I have an option. Do I want an Excel spreadsheet, or do I want an AutoCAD table? Or do I want both? At this point, I just want a legend, so I'm going to keep just the AutoCAD table. I click Finish, and it's going to produce an AutoCAD table in here of exactly what's going on inside my drawing. I've got a number of different sizes of trees, but it has consolidated all of those trees to the right size here. Now, if I look at this, there's a couple different things I can do here. As things change in my layout, as it moves, or it should be locked, or as things get frozen within that layout, this is going to remain dynamic. I'm going to be able to update it, and it's going to recognize that those things have changed. So let's do a couple different things. I'll freeze the building hatch. Then maybe I'll go into my survey database and insert some hydrants into the drawing. I'll take a minute there. And now a couple of those hydrants show up in my viewport here. Now, also, I'm looking at my legend. I don't like that this is simply saying sign. These are proper traffic signs. What I can do is go over to my layers, and I can simply adjust what's going on in here. So this says sign, and now I've got a simple layer filter happening right here. I could grab this, and I want this to say traffic sign. Now, I've made a number of different edits. I've added information, I've removed other information, and I've updated the description here. Let's see how Data Wizard deals with all of this and how we can update that legend. All I have to do is update table. I'll select the table that I want to update. And it's going to open a dialog box. It's going to say AutoCAD table. Well, that's the one I've selected. And what's the template that I want to use to update this? Well, it's exactly what's in there already. Anytime you close out of Data Wizard, it's always going to save what you did last, your last criteria settings, or your last search criteria for objects and things like that. So you can always go back in and fine tune and not have to worry about having to redo everything. You can fine tune a template and then save it out. In this case, let's update this table. We'll click OK. It's going to run through the search of that viewport. It's going to eliminate the one hatch. It's going to add this guy, this hydrant, and now this is saying traffic sign. So it seems that this template is working well. So now it remembers all the configurations that I've made in here. Let's go back in and save this out as a template. Data Wizard template, site plan legend. And we can save that out. So at any point we could load this back in to another drawing or another project and have things work quite well for us. Now I'll close out of this one. Let's jump to a different drawing with a slightly different scenario here. Now, this looks somewhat familiar, maybe from some other webcasts or that. What we've got in here though is we've got a number of turf and asphalt and curb and concrete and all of that. I'd like to be able to tabulate all of this and run some quantities to figure out the areas and things like that. QTO can also, or sorry, Data Wizard can also do all of that for QTO. Let's look at what's already pre-configured here for time's sake and how we could go about that. So it's the same 4 dialog boxes that we'll have to run through. Picking, in this case, we'll pick the entire current drawing. We want the entire model space. And then if we didn't know what was in the drawing, we could check everything. In this case, I'll hit refresh and I know that there are blocks, feature lines, and hatches in here. If I go in here, I can see that I've gotten feature lines and I've got this saved as curb back. So I'm only grabbing feature lines that have a layer that says curb back somewhere in it. Let's go to the next tab here. And what data can I extract to grab each one of these and quantify them? Well, it's already grabbed in here for time's sake. I've got the layer description. So this could also be your pay item as well as a description or something like that. And then we're looking for areas, 2D lengths, and count. Now, all of that is pulled from my data extract. I could pull a graphic, but we don't need that for QTO. We need to describe what it is. And in this case, we're using the layer description to do that. The area quantities, the length quantities, and the each quantities, the count quantities. So we pull this in, and based on the type of data that we're extracting and the area that we're pulling it from, in this case, the whole model space, we're able to transform this. Instead of being a legend, now we've got a QTO. We've got quantity takeoffs for all of the hatched areas and blocks and trees and curbs in this drawing. Now, I'll go to the last tab here. We've spelled out everything we want it to search for. And at this point, we just want to make sure that we're picking the correct sizes for the tables. Maybe we want to sort things a little bit nicer. And we can see how it all appears down here in our nice little display. Now at this point, we have 2 things that we can do. Again, we have an AutoCAD table and we have an Excel spreadsheet that we can push this out to. So let's do both in this case. I'll push this out and I'll put an AutoCAD table down there. And then on top of that, it's going to open up an Excel spreadsheet where it dumped all of this information into. Now I've got all of my seed and everything like that. Now, if I didn't like things like this, maybe I didn't like the fact that this is just seeding. Again, that's the layer description. So we can go back in here. I could go find seeding wherever that may be. And I can edit what the description is. Seeding and 150 millimeter topsoil. Maybe we need to be more specific about that for the pay item that it is. That's all right. All we need to do is update table, grab the table we need to update, and it's going to rerun that whole search criteria that we set and update the things I needed it to, and 150 millimeter topsoil. Now I've forced caps in here, but you have the options to change all of that. If I jump back to Civil 3D here and wrap things, or sorry, back to my PowerPoint and wrap things up. To summarize all of this stuff that Data Wizard can do. At this point, we're getting very accurate tables to exactly what's in our projects. We're getting very project-specific legends as well. We're not worried about something not showing up on our legend and potentially opening our company up to a liability from the contractor or subcontractors. So we've got very efficient and accurate legends and QTO. Fewer mistakes, like I was saying, because it's scanning the drawing. It's getting exactly what's in that drawing and nothing more. And to make it even more efficient, we can have all of those templates saved out and shared among projects, among coworkers, whatever we need to push that out as a company standard for these legends. And as you saw right there, it really doesn't take much configuration to bring this up to your standards and have it working inside of your projects right away. So with that, I'd like to conclude by asking you to follow us on social media and contacting us if you have any questions. I will turn this back over to Ramil to see if we do have any questions. Oh, you might be muted there, Ramil.
Oh, here I am.
There we are.
Well, thank you, Colin. Thank you for that. So, folks, we value your input, so please let us know by typing your comments or questions. And if you'd like us to show all the other CTC tools to you and the members of your team, please contact myself or Colin. I'm more than happy to do so. Now, this session has been recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel by mid next week, along with our previous webinars. So we'll just give it a few more seconds for any questions before concluding. And just to note that the trial version for Data Wizard and entire CIM Project Suite is available. Just let us know. We'll definitely get you access to that.
We offer full support on any of the tools that you've seen us show and demo in some of these CTC webinars. If you do have any questions, or once you've gotten the products, as an example as well, those are the type of troubleshooting in that I'm more than equipped to deal with, and to help you guys kind of get this ready so that you can start recognizing that ROI in some of your projects as well.
Yes, definitely. So I don't see any questions coming in. With that, I'd like to thank everybody for joining. We'll see you next time. Have a good day.
Thank you very much, everyone. Take care.